out to be completely unreliable assholes.
Tim, hi.
Ryan.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey. Hello. And hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. You are listening to, you are here for Dismembering Horror, the podcast show where myself, Ryan McDuffie, and
myself, Tim Aslin,
we talk about what worked for us, what did not work for us, and anything he and I found interesting or noteworthy about a horror film we've been wanting to see, we've been told to see, we've been wanting to revisit, all that.
told to see.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
Right. That we've been preferred. Which are our favorite as far as like, you know, we feel like we're always digging for treasure here. And whether it ends up being a piece of gold, a piece of silver, a neat looking rock, or a piece of coal, we are happy to.
I mean, at least coal has like functionality,
practical purposes. All right, then a piece of shit. How about that as our lowest?
I like the idea of like petrified just dung.
Yes, petrified dung. Whether it ends up being that, or as I said, a piece of gold, we're happy to have uncovered it and sorted it and cataloged it accordingly.
Cataloged it, get it?
Yeah.
Because it's a log. A turd is a log. Ooh, we've really peaked here.
Peaked.
God. It's over. Quarantine has officially destroyed us.
Well, we're in episode 94 of doing this thing, and yeah, it's been, what, a couple months, a few months? I don't know, man.
Too many months.
As Tim and I, both people who live alone, it's definitely a lot. It's a lot of a little, and it's a little of a lot. I'll put it that way. But we are here on a mission to talk about a 2017 film available on Netflix for you and us called The Lodgers. It is a Irish gothic tale.
So gothic.
Yep. Starring Charlotte Vega, David Bradley, and Bill Milner. Anyways, yeah, Tim, anything else you want to say before we get to the trailer for The Lodgers?
HBO Max came out today.
I was already browsing it.
I'm confused a little bit. Like, how is it different from like regular HBO?
It has original content the other one doesn't, and it's outsourcing other content from, I think, Warner Brothers and stuff like that. So it has like Friends,
I get it.
all of Harry Potter, new Looney Tunes. It has a new series of Looney Tunes that's like 10 episodes or whatever.
Okay, that's interesting.
It has, the first thing I checked for was it has all the Ghibli films, or Ghibli, whatever, however it said. The Studio Ghibli, you know, like the Miyazaki movies, Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
But I was bummed it didn't look like they had the subtitled Japanese versions. So, whatever.
Oh,
maybe they'll get on that. A lot of Turner Classic Movies selections, apparently a lot from Criterion on there somewhere, or they're going to get to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Poke around. You just got to poke around.
Well, here's my thing. It's like, do I have to pay for it? Because I don't want to.
Well, sorry, no one can respond, and it's just you and I in this bubble for today. And for now. We're listening. I can't hear what you're saying if you know. It doesn't work that way. Ugh.
Yeah, really.
Sorry.
Shut up. Stop yelling at us.
Well, okay. Tim, I sent you the trailer for The Lodgers. How about we watch it?
Should we watch that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All
right. Here it is. As I said, from 2017, The Lodgers.
We came to this place and shut ourselves away, so nobody would know what we are.
Every sound the house makes, I hear them. They won't wait much longer.
Do you believe that two people can do something so unnatural that it leaves a stain on them? And that the stain goes on to their children, and to their children's children,
Say it and make us sick again.
Culture boy, is well. Be led by him.
This house speaks to us. It belongs to us, and we to it.
I don't get it.
What, Tim?
I just don't get it. Like, I kind of think that I get what they're trying to go for, but I just didn't get it.
I don't think there was much to get. What do you mean?
I don't know. It just didn't feel like satisfying.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you didn't get it. Just
Well, I think the lack of satisfaction comes from the fact that I didn't actually get something from it. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
you didn't get it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I also didn't really get
it. Right. I mean, honestly, it was funny. Like, it's all predicated on knowing these rules. And I, like, kind of just had a vague understand. Like, they're set up in the song at the beginning, and I didn't really quite hear it. But I figured it out. Whatever. It was fine.
Yeah. But, like, I guess you know what it is? It is the, like, the why.
What?
The it that I didn't get is the answer to why. You know, I feel like all these... This is the trope of the, like, gothic, haunted, you know, whatever. Like, there's an element that I think needs to exist in... Or not, doesn't need to, but commonly exists in those stories. And I think that's part of why they get told. In that, like, even with, like, the innocence... Well, actually, hold off on that idea. The idea, we've talked about this before, the sort of the gothic, whether it's a ghost story or not, but, like, there's sort of a setup of, you know, the haunting, whether it's literal or metaphorical, has a reason behind it, an it, like the why. And this one, I think, this movie kind of has it, maybe? But it's so obtuse, unless I just was dumb in my watching it, like I just wasn't grabbing it or grasping it.
I think it was more that,
but, like,
yeah.
Ultimately, so, you know, you can have it be literal, for sure. Like, oh, this bad thing happened, and that's why this stuff is going on. Or you can have, like, the innocence, where it really is kind of the why is more of an idea, and that propels the story. And you don't even have to answer it. It's more about the, like, oh shit, the question is the answer to why all of this is happening.
Does kind of feel like an in-between.
It feels in between. So, having said all that, I guess that's why I'm just a stream.
Yeah.
I felt like kind of like, what?
Right.
Okay. Like, cool. Looks cool. There's some really good imagery.
Yeah. I agree. It was I'll just kind of like, cool. Okay. Yeah, that's spooky. I thought it was, as far as, like, having, you know, distracting holes in it, nothing like that. Like, it was assembled well. I really was into the actors, like, just kind of the main quadro. I don't know what you'd say. Yeah. The main four leads. Quartet. Anyone who popped up. So it was, like, simple story told perfectly fine.
But I think that's where I'm like, and then whatever.
Yeah, it's not.
And I'm like, if you, like, with all the hard work to have all these elements coexisting into this thing, to not have some sort of, like, payoff, I guess,
right,
felt like disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, just her getting away was nice on a certain level, but as far as the supernatural stuff,
But without even, it was like, okay, she got away.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It just never got there. So I don't know, whatever.
All right. Yeah, no, I give it a little more solid of a stream it. For me, it was kind of like it didn't get to that level of kind of charm that that Elementari, the blacksmith and the devil had, but I sort of compare it just as far as kind of like production value and kind of the like just fine with some cool moments filmmaking level.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know whether the pieces just didn't add up to me quite as much as that one, or it didn't have enough kind of uniqueness to it that one did, that flavor or color that one had.
Yes. I was just going to go get deeper into it, but I guess we should wait.
Can you hold that thought? Will you?
Maybe.
Write it down, because I do want to hear it later. But next, I should say, we got to get to our summary officially.
Oh, God, okay.
So,
here we go.
So.
Ready?
Who do we got? We got Rachel and Edward.
Yep. They live in a manor.
Old big manor. And
a manner of speaking, too.
What?
No.
It is old and big. It's not a manner of speaking.
No, they live in a manner of speaking.
They speak a certain way, as that's what you mean?
So, they're alone.
Yes, very alone. In fact, poor Edward has never left. So Rachel, who's older by like 10 minutes or whatever, is the one who goes to town.
Oh, yeah, they're twins.
Yeah, they're twins. We learn the greater story is that they come from a not long but decently recurring lineage of incestuous twins who live alone in this manor and keep up this it's like a curse. It's like a ghostly curse where the previous versions or their ancestors, their incestuous ancestors, I guess, are the ghost, like kind of water based, will haunt them in that they have the big lake outside that's connected to a hole in the front entrance area of the mansion, the square wood hole. And they have to follow a set of rules. They can't feed them. I mean, they can't stay up after midnight.
Feed them. Don't feed the animals.
Yeah, exactly. Can't stay up after midnight. They can't leave each other. And then what was the third one?
Don't let anybody in.
Don't let anyone in. Right. And so as they were kind of coming into their story on their 18th birthday, and Rachel's trying to stay as positive as she can. Poor Edward's just freaking out and abusive and is totally a lost cause. And they don't have a very good 18th birthday.
Yeah, I guess they don't.
And things kind of get worse along the way, not without a few deaths of people surrounding her.
Yeah.
It's pretty tragic, actually. I felt for her.
I take it back. I get it. But I didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense.
It didn't do it for you.
Yeah.
You got it, but didn't do it. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, this was not like I guess stream it for me. This was like it's better than a lot of things we watch. This is like exactly kind of a stream it movie for me. Like,
right.
Yeah.
No, it really is. Yeah. It really sits in that particular, I don't know, just lane of, sure, you're a movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that movie. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, she was good. Oh, yeah, that was cool. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I like
Looks
that.
good.
Oh, yeah, that was kind of weird. So there's our rating and our anything else to add for the summary too, Tim? I don't know. Not a lot happened.
Not really. No, I'd rather explore it in our sections.
Great. She gets away, and along the way, the brother dies, the old man checking up on the estate dies, and her potential BF dies.
BF.
All right. Yes, potential one-legged BF. It was all so sad for her. Anyways, all right. Well, let's figure out more about what worked. In our first section, guess what it's called. What worked?
What worked for you? What worked for you?
It worked like a charm, Smith.
What worked for you?
I mean, even though I didn't quite grasp it, I kind of picked it up as it went along, which is fine. Like, I like the idea of just these rules set out. Like, for something that's a more filmmaking style that is quote unquote slow burn, even though it's not at all, kind of more, creepy atmosphere, just all that stuff.
Yeah.
Something that's more erring toward realism, I'd say at its core, just as far as the style. Like, it's kind of nice to have these kind of pillars that you can then hang your hat on. That works. So this was fun.
Yeah, it's got all sorts of good elements. You can kind of just like go down the line, right? Like, the characters are pretty, they're pretty interesting. Each one of them has something going on, which I think you can't say that for every movie we've watched. There's an actual story going on, and it takes place in a time and a place, and there is atmosphere, and there's a mood and a kind of a plotting, I guess, a plotting movement to the story that are all fine. Like, they all are there, and they're not bad.
You could say...
here's the thing. There's really nothing bad about this movie.
I just don't want...
That's what's so odd.
I don't want to miss that opportunity, Tim. You could have said it's a plotting.
It is a plotting.
Sorry. I just was excited.
It really
about
is.
That. No, none of it's bad. Do you like the conceit of, I guess one of the horror conceits in it was cool. That's kind of like Stranger Things. Is this upside down version of the mansion is kind of the reveal of what's in the pit.
Yes, but visually, conceptually, I like it.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh, that's cool. I think actually what ultimately I arrive at, and what we'll talk about and what didn't work, is so you have all these elements that I think are good. The look, the tone, the atmosphere, the film style, the acting, the characterization, the actual like setting. All those things are I think cool. Mm-hmm. Like, they look cool. They do their thing, but I think there's something underneath that doesn't exist that makes it feel hollow. Mm-hmm. So, yes, do I think that upside down and like the dripping things dripping upward? Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. You're like, whoa, that's freaky and unnatural. Cool.
Yeah.
To what end?
Right.
I think is where you then next want to go. But as in and of itself, as an element, it does work.
Yes.
Because it makes you go, ooh, cool.
I went, ooh, cool at every time the water came out from underneath it. It had this oozing quality to it.
Yeah.
That was neat.
Yeah, I really do. You know what? Ultimately, I think what we're saying is the thing that really, really worked is the design of this movie. Mm-hmm. All across the board, design is really, really working.
Yeah, actually, and a moment I just remembered I really liked was when we have Sean is the potential BF, as I said. I think his name is Sean. When he's missing a leg, and like when he's the moment where he, as a, I don't know, he's like spirit walking or whatever. He's like left his body, and that visual of him walking up the stairs like with the missing leg, but as if his leg was there.
Right. That's right.
I like that.
That is cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a lot of really, I just think the look of this, and like, I guess it's more than just the look, the construction of the elements
Right.
are really cool. Like the tone that is accomplished through that construction is pleasing and like ethereal and freaky, and like it's such a good mood.
Yeah.
And good, I mean good in like, I enjoyed it. I was like, ooh, I'm into this. Like I love the lead girl. I think she's super compelling, and her twin is like equally compelling in an like I don't like him way.
Yeah, in an inverse way.
Right. But like that all really works.
Yeah. I don't know what it was. I just felt for her like really hard just her situation was just so horrible. And she was, like you think from the beginning, I don't know, something just about the onset. And I like the direction it went, was it seemed like it might've been that more typical where it's like, I don't know if this actually is more typical, but for whatever in my brain, I was expecting it to go where it's kind of like the both of them are kind of more like dual protagonists, like at the way beginning, just with that setup. But I really like that it didn't even become, it really like was her story from the get-go. Very much, yeah. As soon as he like abused her by grabbing her neck at the beginning, it's like you were just so with her and like wanting to get out, and then even the townspeople chiding her and all that. It was just like, just wanted a boyfriend, just want to get out and see the world.
Wants a life.
Yeah, right. And then,
I relate.
Right. And then, but ideas, then, it gave you stuff to chew on, where then the boyfriend who'd come back from the war was like, what's his name? Sean was like, trust me, it's only, death and blah, blah, blah out there. And then she was like, yeah, but it's not, there's only death in here. I don't know, gave you something to chew on.
No. And so I think that's the other main success for me is the thematic aspect of the movie. I really like. I think it's a cool thing to sort of pick apart, that there's this, there's sort of this metaphor. I mean, there's a bunch of metaphors, but there's the one I like, I think the most maybe, is when you insulate yourself for whatever reason. So in this case, I think the closest one-to-one thing that they're pointing at is the idea of like royalty versus the proletariat, right? You've got your commoners and you've got your royalty. And there's a divide between those two things. And that divide exists today in our world too, right? Like that's a common human thing that exists in the world. And this is a cool way to sort of put it up against each other in a more like intense way, is to really hone in on like magnifying negative aspects of royalty, the incestuousness that comes along with being like, we have to exist in our insular world because the rest of whatever humanity isn't up to our standards. So we have to separate ourselves from them and be our own thing. And only people that we deem worthy, in this case, the highest form of that, our literal family, are the only people we have access to. And we have to perpetuate that royal bloodline kind of idea. It's a really like magnified version of the incestuousness or metaphorical incestuousness of royal lineage.
Right. Well, I think
I think that's cool to just to sort of pick that piece out and be like, let's make it about that.
The ideas like within that spring out to me, it's like it's less about maybe a royal lineage, but like specifically the passing the bloodline or like a family lineage within that.
Yeah.
And kind of that separation. But I guess I get what you mean, just as far as like the added setting of being like essentially a palace, or a certain class, I guess, that you associate.
I think the classism is sort of what I'm pulling away from it, right? Like it doesn't necessarily need to be kings and queens, but it's sort of like the separation of the idea. Anybody can have this idea, like my family is special, right, and we need to insulate ourselves from anything other than us.
What that means to me, and like what I think is so it's less about like, even if that's the outward thing being spoken at any given time, it more comes down to like severe trust issues with these people. Like we have been hurt so bad or whatever, or we are just so scared of anyone else outside of these confines, kind of like what Edward represents, especially.
Definitely.
That rather than just being like, oh, it's all evil out there, can't trust it, we're just gonna stay here.
Right. And and we see this in a very flipped way in Calvaire, right? Where it's more about sort of the town folk having that sort of insular I don't know, is it an ideology? It's a sort of worldview.
Sickness, I'd say.
Or whatever, sure, sickness. Yeah, and so you can play with that theme in lots of different ways. And I mean, I dig it. I dig that that's where you end up sort of going, oh shit, that's the reveal of this story.
Yeah.
And it sort of stops there for me. Like the thing that I like about it just sort of stops.
Mm-hmm. I was reading into more. I was curious what you, how or if you were reading into this, but the idea, just the more like straight up curse that it is of like, and which I like about it as far as this repeating like incestuous double suicide thing. Which it's like, for me, it's that idea of like a loop that can't be broken, yet the ones suffering from it, like, it's not like they aren't aging, they aren't trapped in time necessarily, and the outside world is still going. So
that's right.
But yet that fixation or that negative, mindset, whatever it is that's keeping them trapped, is the thing that's still repeating. And it's like, yeah.
Well, that's what I think is so cool about this idea, is that the evil, literal or not, is the belief in the curse.
Mm-hmm.
The belief that we have to keep doing this thing this certain way to survive is, Edward buys in. And this story, the reason we have this story at all is because Rachel questions that belief. So you have this whole theme around, we deal with this all the time, right? Like, you grow up in a family, that family has a set of beliefs, whether it's, political or religious or whatever, but those beliefs are really strong and you buy in because they're your family and that's all you know. And the only way you generally break out of that is by exposure to other things.
Yeah.
And so Edward is the perfect example of the person who's indoctrinated and never gets exposure. Well, so that it's never an option for him to break that belief. That he believes 100% that this thing is real, and it is real, but he's bought in.
Right. It's
without question.
What he's missing out on, like, and what's interesting too is like, it's not like these are just ideas in his head. As far as he has like creepy ghosts he sees, water dripping upwards, things pounding from under it, like that ties that link for making these rules, real in his mind. Well, these must be real because it's all part of the curse, and the ghosts are real. I experience them. So that means the repercussions must be real. But what he's missing that's interesting is, and I think is a really cool idea, is that we associate, this is some, impenetrable curse. But really it's just people, like they're ghosts or whatever, but they're just remnants of these people's insecurities and fixations. It doesn't matter if they've gone to a supernatural place. Its point of origin is still that very human.
That's true. And I think actually that's kind of the cool aspect of putting Rachel up against Edward. It's Edward, right?
Yes.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought it might be Edmund. That's not it.
It was either going to be Edward or Edmund when you look at him.
I mean, really. But so, there's a moment in the movie when he's talking about the bird, and she's like, the bird's not there. Right? So what we're really talking about, essentially, is the Plato's cave allegory. I mean, that's essentially, if you boil down to like really fundamental storytelling, what we're exploring in this movie is the idea of belief is based on perception. And until you can perceive broader, whatever you're seeing is true to you. So if anybody's wondering, the cave allegory thing is like, you're in a cave, your back is to the opening of the cave. I forget what the deal is exactly. You can't look behind you. Mm-hmm. All you can see is the shadows on the wall that are cast from the fire in the cave. And so that's your reality. You believe that those things are for you reality. Mm-hmm. But you can turn around eventually. If you choose to turn around, you'll see that there's more to the world. That those shadows are not actual people, they're the shadows of people. And so it's just a way of describing enlightenment, right? Like your world exists in this little, tunnel vision until you step out of it and see that there's more to the world.
And that's tied to, as far as seeing a bird that's not there. Yeah.
So what I'm saying, yeah, exactly. Like everything Edward experiences, real or not to him, is real to him. Real or not in the world is real to him.
Yeah.
Right? Like he sees the bird. The bird, as far as he's concerned, the bird's real. But Rachel represents somebody who has left the cave, so to speak. She's seen that there's more to the world than Edward has.
Yeah.
And so, like, whatever exists in Edward's mind is limited to the scope of what he perceives based on what he knows.
It's so tragic and sad when he's asking, what is it like beyond the gates, beyond these grounds, or whatever he says.
Right. And she says something pretty creepy where she's like, would you believe it if I said it wasn't beautiful or something like that? And it's like, Jesus Christ.
Right.
How fucking depressing. Like, does she want him to not leave? Like, what the fuck?
Just caught her in a bad mood.
Yeah, I mean, really. I'd be in a bad mood if I had to live with him, too, because he's a real downer.
Yeah, I know. She just wanted to go for a walk on the grounds with their brother on their birthday. And he couldn't even do that. Instead, he just had to flip out.
Right. Like, take a fucking pill, Edward.
Well,
Jesus.
He would need to go to town for that.
Yeah. So, all those things are cool. Like, I think all that stuff is cool. I think putting it up against a town that sort of knows, or at least the woman who, Sean's mom, she's the most grounded in reality, or a reality, but like a reality that we connect to in this movie, right? She's sort of like the realist person there. And she's like, I don't want to fucking fuck with these guys because I know the history of the family that lives there. She knows the horrors of the world that she lives in too. She's got a son who went to war, so she's connected to that horror.
Oh, but you're talking about the mom in the town. That's the father, that mother to Sean. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so she's like pretty grounded. So it's a nice touchstone for us, but it also, it gives us a chance to sort of see somebody who's like, she's flawed in her own way because she doesn't even want her son to interact with Rachel.
No, she doesn't even hear her out. Like, come on.
Exactly. She's just made a decision. You're bad. And so it's sort of a nice counterpoint to see that even with somebody who's really grounded in what we would consider reality, she still is like at the mercy of her own prejudices.
Right. Which is kind of a cool that they set it at an appropriate time, because like when you have people going off to war and soldiers marching around, like you get her prejudices, and like
totally
the town boys like trying to rape women or whatever they're doing, getting up to trouble as they call it. Like,
well, and it pushes up against the classism as well, right? Like Edward didn't have to go to war.
Yeah.
Right? Because why would he? He's rich, or so to speak.
They have credit.
Yeah, exactly. They have credit. He doesn't belong in that same class.
Yeah. Before we leave it too far behind, I just wanted to say I really liked just the imagery, idea, metaphor, whatever, of a boy who is trapped carrying a caged animal and becoming attached to it. Just as talking about cyclical ideas, or just all that good stuff. I don't know, that kind of got to me, maybe as a boy with an animal. I don't know, trapped in my home.
Right, but the metaphor is Sixto, your cat, isn't in an actual cage.
Right. He's off. Yeah, as far as knows,
like
he's
the reason Edward relates. The reason Edward relates to the bird, the reason he relates to the bird in the first place is because he has context for a bird that, like, birds belong in cages.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what he knows. That's what he's seen. His mom had a cage with a bird in it that died. Mm-hmm. So he can only relate to the bird in that context. Yeah. Not only, but like that's what makes sense to him.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Because he's the bird in the cage, right? Like, yeah, they're the same.
Yeah, exactly.
He has to take this bird that wasn't in a fucking cage to begin with and fit it into his worldview, which is things belong in cages, right? Because that's what he is. That's what he knows.
As horrible and kind of unlikable as he is, those little touches of like where he's petting the bird outside of its cage at one point, it just makes it all so sad and tragic.
That's right, because there's a part of him, I think, that yearns for a thing, but the tragedy is that he can't bring himself to do it.
Right. I mean, and also just how messed up he is of the whole incestuous thing, where it's like he knows that's it. They're like, quote unquote, of age. We get that little scene where he's like, "Oh, are you drawing the bath for both of us?" And she's like, right. Yeah, we're too old for that. It's ridiculous. But he has no other world of like, he's never even seen another person. It's just that there's no context for that kind of right or wrong for him. And
that's
like
right.
you feel
actually it's worse that there's no context. It's that the only context he's been giving is that that's right.
That history, right. And that they're almost kind of doomed to it. Like it's just he's just
exactly
taking the steps almost. But like,
because that's what you do, man. You see that culturally all over the place, yeah. Right? Like you do the thing because that's what you do. According to fucking your parents, I guess, or like right. The people around you who say, "Oh, well, that's just what you do."
It's so sad. Like though, like when you're seeing like he's feeling that tension around her so much. She's just met her potential boyfriend, much healthier worldview out there, but he's just like it's so sad when you just feel like he just wants that kind of intimacy and connection, and she is his only hope for that. It's so sad.
In his mind, she is.
Right. He can't leave. Yeah, exactly. But
that to me, that's the most compelling component to the story or the structure of this story.
Mm-hmm.
That singular idea or concept that, oh God, am I going to be able to articulate what you just said? He is trapped by his own belief system, despite his desire to break out of it.
Mm-hmm.
He cannot break out of it because it's all he knows. And he has somebody outside of it, his sister. Well, she's bridging the gap, right? She's actually straddling those two worlds. And it's compelling to watch her go through that.
It's compelling because both of them are looking at it as life and death situation.
Right, but that's the tragedy, is that he really firmly believes that it is death. And, probably not.
Yeah.
I think that's what's so cool, is that the belief is the key to it, right? If you believe that you'll die if you don't go to bed by midnight, yeah, you will.
Well,
the power of your belief is what keeps you where you are.
It's also that twisted version of trust, as far as what he's believing is that family, aka his parents' worldview, which is then his grandparents, which is probably then his. I think it went back to the great grandparents started it. Like, I think they're like the fourth or third, something like that. Anyway,
something like that. Yeah.
But that's yeah. I don't know. That's all.
I think that's a really compelling story and concept to play with.
Something that they kind of touch on, and it was, again, just kind of a cool thing in itself. I don't know if I wanted more or less or what, but just any like twin connectivity things. Like, there's that moment where they're both like feeling their shoulder, or like she's feeling her shoulder and he can feel she's feeling her shoulder, or something like that. And it kind of, that idea was touched on too, where she's touching Sean's like phantom limb, asking, can you feel this? But just that kind of, I guess that's connected it. My mind just connected it right now, but I don't know. Just as far as any twin stuff was neat.
Well, I think that, the basis for this is, just from a storytelling point of view, is that you're really just talking, when you have twins, you're just talking about duality, right? So for all intents and purposes, you could have Edward and Rachel be one person. They essentially are. They're just the duality. They're the two sides of one person.
Yeah.
And so, like, to me, in a way, this whole story is kind of representative of just human growth, right? You yourself, any human being, have within you duality. You have the part of you that says, I need to hold on to these beliefs and this worldview that I've been told. And the part of you that's like, yeah, but I also want to see if there's more to the world than that. And that sometimes for some people comes into great conflict. And sometimes it doesn't, like one just has more power over the other in either direction. And that's usually what, in storytelling, what makes for really compelling character, is to see that duality within one person. This is just splitting them down the middle and saying, let's have them represent that, but get at each other over it. That's cool.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder if there was, in their lineage, if there was this kind of conflict before, where either the brother or the sister like was taking more of a stance.
Well, that's definitely, yes, definitely. Their parents, the moment Rachel sees the vision of her dad drowning her mom rather than them drowning together,
right,
is the indication that this cycle of, at least in this particular case, maybe it went back and forth, but the husband, or not the husband, the brother was always the one holding on to, which I actually think is a cool way of doing it, that the male ego is the one that's holding on harder, and the female ego is the one that's trying to explore the world. The masculine versus feminine sort of duality is within that too. And so, of course, Edward is going to hang on because that's what he does. He hangs on to that, and he's cool with it. Like, he doesn't even tell her that he saw Dad kill Mom.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Right? Like, he just sort of brushes it aside and says, no, but this is what we do. As opposed to somebody who can, like, have contact with, morality.
Right. He just looked at that as further validation.
Right. And go, oh shit, maybe what we're doing is not cool. Instead of questioning it because it's wrong morally, he buys in more. So that's tragic. And she gets to see that and go, oh fuck, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. Believe it if you need it. If you don't, just pass it on.
Ugh, yeah. So like, all that shit's cool.
I liked, actually, something else that the twin stuff did for me, I liked was, it's kind of like in Sisters, was it? I want to say, where anything else we watched with Twin Ideas, the Cronenberg movie, what's that called? We didn't watch it, but the twin one. Dead Ringers.
Dead Ringers, yeah. I watched it recently.
Just the idea... It's a cool in to the idea of kind of the semi-supernatural or the supernatural of like, we kind of have this inherent almost buy-in to the idea and like we just get it of, let's say, like twins just kind of having kind of connectivity or understanding that kind of goes beyond what, we can kind of explain. So I like that. That was just kind of an in for me at the beginning of like, okay, there's potentiality for things beyond our understanding. It's a good jumping off point when you're going into something that's supposed to be more realistically toned.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I like the eels too.
I was just going to say, Tim, I was literally just going to say, how about those eels? That's so funny. They were great.
Which, as a metaphor, is a phallic metaphor. And it's, it's masculine, sort of, the eel is, it's like the snake, right? It's sort of like the original sin stuff. And it's all connected to that kind of metaphor and symbolism.
Symbologyism.
That's right.
How great, yeah, when the eel slithered up, when she's just trying to have a nice bath, a candlelit bath. Eel slithered, and there's like big old black eel, served on the dinner table. That was so good.
I like it when it comes out of the old man's mouth.
Oh yeah, that was probably the best. Yeah. Speaking.
Yeah, I mean, all that's cool. It's like this. All this stuff's cool. It's good. It's good concept stuff.
Our one big kind of kill moment of Edward killing the older guy you just mentioned, just getting stabbed. Yeah.
Ooh, boy.
Just one of those repeated stab things. That's where you're just like, oh God. But he's just, poor Edward is just, he's just so determined.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, boy, that guy did not know what he was getting into. He should have listened to Rachel telling him, don't come in, but he
didn't get it.
Could not have imagined.
But also he kind of gets a little comeuppance in this sense that, like, previous to that, we see him be a creep.
Yeah, no, I'm very much, yeah.
And it's like, yo,
still,
you want to be a creep to like a 17, 18-year-old girl? No problem, but you're going to get gut stabbed like 50 times.
Yep. He's kind of represents his own side of, I like that kind of, it's not mirror because it's not the opposite, but that other side of like, we know this family of theirs has been doing this weird, fulfilling this curse for generations. And then he says, oh, well, my family has always done your finances or whatever it is for generations. And that's his own trap that leads him to do the things he's doing so fastidiously.
Yeah. I mean, this is a big problem in the world.
I love her fighting back though.
Yeah. systemic issues in our cultures they're not they're systemic for reasons because a lot of people are buying into them on some level or another.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool when you have what their family represents is, Edward thinking, oh, well, this is our whole world. Like sometimes that alternate, world that's outside of those greater world traps, like you think it's some kind of vestige or source for a better way of doing things. But when you see that an insulated world isn't offering any better alternatives aside from what Rachel has to tell the old guy. Yeah, you kind of get what I was saying with that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The more I think about it, the more this movie really is about masculine and feminine sort of duality and the dark. It points a lot at the darker side of masculinity.
Yeah, and it's kind of...
it's not being like, oh, men are inherently terrible or whatever, but it's like, hey, just so you know, we live in a world where there's a lot of systemic bad masculinity.
Right, because I really liked you kind of had that all emblemized. I don't say I really liked it, but I like those emblemized in the town dudes.
Exactly, yeah.
And then you have the one who they're kind of like, well, this is just how we all are. This is how it is. You whistle at the girls and then try to get them to force them to go to the woods with you. But then you have the back from the war guy, been humbled by war. That's
exactly right.
Who's showing...
It's not even that he's been humbled by war. That's a big aspect of it. But war, him leaving their insular town, it's just another representation of that theme.
Yeah.
That if you can leave the cave, there may be a cost. I mean, there's a cost to him leaving the town.
Yeah.
Right? And going to war. But the war opened his eyes to a broader world.
It was cool how, genuinely caring about her is what kind of then brought them closer,
Mm-hmm.
See that.
Yeah, it's this. Look, I've made this argument, maybe not on the show that much, but in my life a lot. Experience builds empathy.
Yeah,
that's just the way it goes. And if you don't have experiences that are different than that push you outside of your little fucking insular world, you don't grow a whole lot of empathy.
Right,
you just don't.
And there's no end to that game is the thing.
Yeah. I mean, Edward is exactly representative of the result of zero empathy.
Right.
Right? He just doesn't even get it. He only cares about himself. That's it.
Well, in his mind, he cares about the sister too, and just
I don't think he does.
Well, at a certain point...
In actuality, he cares about her in relation to what she provides him.
But... Yeah, but in his mind, he's doing whatever to fulfill this cause or whatever, which in the end, when he grabs her at the beginning, he thinks he's saving her, in a way by telling her the truth of how it is.
That's right. But yes, I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
That's all still just him exerting his singular notion of survival.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? She serves a purpose. She's not there. She's there for him to survive. Right? And he's trying to keep that in line.
Yeah.
So, he doesn't actually care about her. He cares about her only insofar as how she helps him to perpetuate the belief system that he has.
It's beyond. It's selfish, but it's so beyond even him having a sense of self. It's just this. He's just.
That's interesting. Yeah.
He's just lost in this whatever he's been. His parents and grandparents' ways. He's just.
That's right. He has no identity in a way.
Yeah.
Which is it's an even more tragic version of lacking empathy. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even have a self.
He's pale. He's he just
that's
looks like it.
That's fucking sad.
Right. I know, and that's why it just is so sad and tragic when I see him holding that bird. It's his only little bit of personality, in there. Just oh, I like this. It's so sad. For both of them.
Yeah, it's crazy. His whole identity is wrapped up in the notion of I just have to do these things, you know, I just have to go through the motions of these things. Like, it's just what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's so depressing.
I did like,
Everybody quit your jobs.
yeah.
Stop being an automaton. Automaton.
Automaton.
Stop it.
Right.
Go live your best life.
I know.
Paint that painting.
We'll get automatons.
Learn that language.
We can get automatons to be the automatons. You don't have
Go
to.
to Belize.
Go to Belize and paint your painting. Yeah.
Start that career you've always dreamt of.
You should. Start that.
It's okay.
Start that garden.
Leave that douche you're with.
This is why I'm so like, you know, I think in a lot of like, I don't know, like growth, taking care of yourself. Like the first thing you can do is take care of your space. It's sort of, it's this loop you're in with whatever your space is. You know, it's very cleansing
that's interesting.
to clean. And
their place is a good representation of
it's
not keeping your space.
It's destitute. It looks like Edward, you know? And
they don't. It's almost like they really don't even know how.
Right. So I just would wish like they just did this, you know, picturing a nicer story for them where it's like, great, well, we'll start with the main entrance and then they start cleaning it and like, you know, we'll bring in the light, you know, and opening the window.
Nail that door to the underworld shut.
Yeah.
Just
Exactly.
put a rug over it.
Whatever.
Just
yeah.
a nice little throw rug.
Last real thing I had was going back to Sean, the boyfriend, coming to save the day at the end. It was really interesting how like there was the part of me like when he was the one who ended up inadvertently sacrificing himself by going after her to save her. Like, I just wanted, because I wanted her to get him so bad, like, I wanted then the ending that I shouldn't want to have because I've seen it a billion times and it's stupid and offensive now or whatever, of like, you know, the boy is the one who saves the day at the end.
Sure.
So it was really cool that it didn't do that. But at the same time, I was just wanted the best for her. I'm not saying that, and I'm saying that did work for me because it actually, like, I was into her story and what she wanted and was affected by the tragedy of it all. It was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dig.
Yeah. All right. You want to see what we didn't dig?
Sure.
All right. Here it is, next section. What did not work?
It's not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work?
So, to round out, I think, where we were tiptoeing around, I guess, or heading, is that I think, given all of those things and the good execution of the setup and all these elements that are speaking to really cool elements that are speaking to cool elements,
Yeah.
I just did not feel like the payoff of the underground world or underwater world, like, it visually was interesting, but it just...
It's so hard. It feels like, it was... All it was the payoff was kind of visual. It felt very pat. It didn't sort of end with a deeper mystery or sense of what's, you know... Even though we've come to understand more, it's still, there's something haunting about it. Maybe the bow is both too neat and not enough. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, I think part of it, and this seems to be pretty common in the gothic horror realm. I think that it's a little bit of style over substance in the endings a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, yeah, cool, you fell into this underwater thing that we've been wondering about, and we find out what's down there, which we kind of got. But then the answer is just take him and then I'm cool. And like, there's I think part of what just felt so flat about the ending ultimately, or the movie in a lot of ways, is you've got all this mood and tone and setup of cool ideas and like hauntingness. And then at a certain point in a good story and a good movie, for me, I need things to ramp up toward peril.
Yeah, I feel like if they had done that, the reveal of the upside down thing, either as like a midpoint or just not done it at all, it could have behooved it.
Yeah. Like, I want to see the internal and the external clash, like meet up, the internal and external struggle of our main character. I want to see it clash into a point where they have to make a decision. And it doesn't have that. She doesn't have to make a decision. She doesn't do shit.
You're talking about Rachel specifically, not, yeah.
Yeah. Like, it actually kind of was undercut by the moment. I just was like, I don't get it.
Even
like,
though it didn't.
They're about to walk out the front door.
Right. Even though it was nice it didn't come down to her getting rescued. It was kind of just like, oh, she just got away.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you just sort of plot out the moments, they get away. She gets out of the room after Sean gets stabbed in the hand, and he's in peril. So that sequence was all right. You know, she finally gets through the door and she gets the knife out of his hand, and they jump up, and then the beings just go away. Mm-hmm. Well, okay. What? So what? Like, then who gives a shit? Right? They didn't figure anything out. They didn't solve anything. They didn't, like, fight it off. She just pulled the knife out of his hand. That's not an accomplishment, and it's certainly not cathartic. Okay, so that's the first one that just kind of made me go, okay. Then they start to leave. They're like, well, let's get the fuck out of here, and the water's going upside down. Cool. They get to the door. They could just walk out, and she's compelled to walk backwards and fall into the hole. Right. Now, that's not terrible if you get a little bit of a fucking sense of why she's compelled. That you see, again, her internal struggle meeting up with her external struggle in that moment, and we can actually watch it unfold. But we don't get that. She just walks backwards. Mm-hmm. Why? Who cares?
Right.
Now, you could show that in a bunch of different ways visually. Here's one. Have all of the beings not aggressively just be behind her and put their hands on her. They represent the belief system that has kept her and Edward there the whole time.
Yeah.
Right? Just have them there and have them putting their hands on her, sort of drawing her back, and have Sean turn around and not see them. He doesn't believe in them, right? So then we go, holy shit, I get it. This is a metaphor. She's being drawn back by the idea, both literally and figuratively. And Sean, who represents breaking out of that belief system, he doesn't see it. Mm-hmm. So he'd be like, yo, what are you doing? Why are you backing up? Right. Stop. Like, have him actually go, stop doing that thing. Yeah. Don't do it. And she could say, I can't not do it, dude. Mm-hmm. But, like, we don't get any of that. If we can get the internal and the external to meet for her in that moment, then we're in good shape, right? Because we've got her struggle happening, and then we have a touchstone saying of Sean being like, no, please don't let this happen. Mm-hmm. And she could be like, I can't help it. Mm-hmm. This is who I am. Then we go, oh fuck, peril. It's not just external peril. It's in her. And she's got to fucking get through it somehow.
When it comes down to it, for her, they're still her parents that she's dealing with.
And so you can then, once you have that, you can play it out the way it plays out, right? Like she can go into the water. He can go after her. He can kiss her underwater and have that moment of like, oh shit, like I'm here to save you. And then fuck, dude. It would be even a little bit more fucked up and satisfying to me because the act of him getting taken and her coming out of the water is so passive from her. I would like to see her have to make a decision in there and sacrifice him. If she realizes, oh shit, this is my way out. I thought he was my way out in the above world, and it turns out, and through something positive like love, turns out he's my out down here.
Right. She has that really interesting quote, the only thing worse than hate can be love because of how strong it is, or how the only thing that can be stronger, something like that.
Right.
And to see her have to make a decision on that, because I don't know, because that's the thing. I don't know, and it would be really interesting to see her choose either sacrifice him to save her or sacrifice herself to save him out of love.
And the thing that it would do, and I think it would make us feel good, is that in any good tragedy, even though we may come out, like the hero or whatever may come out, okay, not okay, but like let's say they survive, they carry the scars of the struggle and the toll of enlightenment with them. And it makes us go, fuck, yeah. Yeah, there's a cost, but it's a cost that's worth, the burden is worth it to have enlightenment. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but like by and large it is. And that's what makes it tragic, is that if we see that she knew in order to save herself, she had to sacrifice him, she made that decision, and then we see her on the other side walking away, it's so much more tragic and gut-wrenching to know that she made that choice and is gonna, yes, she succeeded, she got what we wanted her to get, which is to live and to have a life outside of this shitty existence that she had. But she has to carry the burden of that decision with her. And that's life.
Right.
That is fucking life.
I feel like maybe they were going there, but then they just thought that, which is not what you want to do for a horror movie, but it just felt like it was too, they didn't want to have her, choose to kill him kind of thing. But then what you get is just kind of, it's just pretty passive. It's just kind of, okay, it merely played out and they were there.
Right. And that, I think, and I have to rewatch, I only watched like a third of it. What's it called? Crimson Peak. But Crimson Peak feels equally, from what I watched, there's a passivity to it that bothers me in these gothic horror tales. The Innocents had it to a certain degree, although she's really kind of like just flipping out. The Others has it. There's one called Awakening. I think it's called Awakening. That's good, but like still has this sort of passivity where it's like stuff, they're just experiencing the mood. Yeah.
Well, I really want you to see still, since I already did recommend Dead this, I won't do it again, but it's not so much a gothic horror, but like Irish kind of horror film. It's not ghosts. It's called Don't Leave Home. And it goes more in that direction of a little more like it's a story or a fable being told, like Aramentari, but modern day set, kind of going back to this old world. Don't Leave Home. I want to know what you think of that one, Tim.
I don't. It sounds so familiar.
It's.
Did I watch it?
I don't know. Do you have anything else on all that? Because I agree with all that, but the thing I tuned into was a bit of a different issue.
To be honest, no. Like, everything, there's nothing else that really, like I said, so much of the movie is doing things well, except for this, like, catharsis.
Right. So I approach that like catharsis. I want, like, you're totally right. Yeah, it should have those things, but like where my mind goes first is the kind of our relation to buying into or not buying into like the supernatural stuff. Like, as far as what is too much or too little at any given point when this is supposed to be like a grounded reality. It's not as like we're telling a storybook like Elementary is.
Right.
Yet, so then you have, though, like the moment at the beginning and it is at the beginning, like pretty close to the beginning, where we see like the ghost parents or whatever floating above the lake, dripping. I immediately was like, okay, well, not scary. I'm not scared of this movie anymore because it's just kind of showing this stuff like way up front in a way that doesn't really seem mysterious, seems more about the aesthetics of like the water and the drippiness, and they're floating. And I was like, oh, that's cool though. I'm in it in the sense where it's cool and it's fun, but it's kind of like a weird middle ground when it is trying to be a more realistic thing versus a more storybook thing. So like by the end, when it's just like full on, showing the upside down house and the all the ghost people, the ghost relatives or whatever they are, kind of just like full blown like zombies reaching out to them or whatever. I was just kind of like, it's just so much. Like I'm not, it's just, I don't know. It's not really into it in a way that I feel like I should be at this point.
Yeah.
It's either
I feel that.
It's either too much of showing that, or it's too little of a different kind of more, a kind of filmmaking that wasn't there. Like...
Yeah. You know what? I think part of why it doesn't work, or like why we're having this feeling, is, which you kind of said, if not alluded to, there's a rhythm to filmmaking in general, but there's a rhythm to storytelling that you want to have things be like come in waves, but every wave should be a little bit bigger than the last one. Especially with a moody tonal thing like this. So it's like, yeah, get some glimmers, get some smaller waves early on. Like when they peak, you go, ooh, what was that? But then it settles down and we get more mood. And then you get another wave. And like, it almost does this, but like you're saying, it kind of lets a couple big ones out of the bag early that we go, okay, and then we never really get them back. It doesn't lead to a thing. Maybe that's part of why I was saying like, I didn't get it. Is that's part of the it that I wasn't getting. It's like, then suddenly we're in the third act and the fucking creature or whatever, the apparition people are out of the box. Like they're just out. Like we didn't see them out any other time. We were like waiting this whole time for that reveal. But then it just happens without much fanfare, really. They just sort of come out and we go, okay, no, well, now they're out.
Yeah.
And we see them and,
exactly.
There's a way. I mean, Jaws, you could always go back to Jaws. Just always go back to Jaws. You don't have to show the thing, but when you show the thing finally, do it around the midpoint.
Right. Or if your movie's Deep Blue Sea, then be Deep Blue Sea. Don't be Jaws.
That's right. Yeah. So, find the rhythm that makes sense for what you're trying to depict. And it's not strict. It's not like there's a formula that says it has to be this, this, or this. But like, there's kind of a vibe that you get. Don't. What's the expression? Don't give us the shark before we want to see the shark.
Right. Or, I mean, for me, it's like, imagine this is like if Jaws had still the mood of Jaws, but then showed the sharks like Deep Blue Sea. That's what this feels like. That's
right. Yeah, that doesn't work. Those don't go together.
Like we see at the beginning, I forget which one actually came first. There's I guess the father, whatever, a male ghost kind of stepping aside into the shadows at the beginning, and then like classic, like look over and it's gone again. Like, do that. You can still have that beat, but like don't show it like as clearly or something.
But don't have that beat in this movie.
Or just don't have it.
You've established this. Here's the problem. Actually, this really is probably more to the point for me. You've established that there is a doorway to the bad thing.
Yeah. Very Onibaba.
And if you do certain things, if you break certain rules, that the bad thing will come out of that door. If that's true, you don't get to have apparitions standing behind a pillar. You don't, unless you see that it came out. It came out of the doorway in the floor, right? Like, you can't have both. It just messes it up.
Yeah.
You can have her seeing things. I don't even know if you can have that. Like, it becomes this kind of muddled mess. Here's what it is. I think you have to distinguish the entity from her sort of like visions, right? You can have the little things. You get to have the eel, and you can have like things getting drippy. They're all precursors to the door opening. You can have a bunch of those, but you can't have a fucking person standing there.
Right.
Otherwise, who cares when the door opens that people come out?
Right.
They're already out. Like, who gives a shit? Like, you gotta build up. If you're gonna set something up that is a build up to a big reveal, you can't show the thing.
Right, and I guess that kind of...
It's messy.
It kind of gets at, too, even though it has these set rules, like, we have no really clear kind of, like, at least that I remember, connection between her starting to test those rules and the pushback. Like, yeah, we get it. They're kind of, like, starting to harass her more and stuff. But, yeah, as far as the, like... I don't know. Why aren't they doing more? Why aren't they doing less? Like, do they gain or lose power? Or were they like at any given time based on how much is she doing? Does she have any way? Like, how did she actually get away each time? Were they intentionally letting her away? Like, I don't know.
Also, you had rules. Mm-hmm. If you set up rules that can't be broken, or that there are consequences to them being broken, then, be a little clear about when those have been broken and what the consequences are.
Yeah, make a really big deal out of it if they stay up after midnight. Oh, shoot, it's midnight.
Yeah, like the water came out of that door in the floor, hatch. And Edward was super pissed off the next morning because the chime had already chimed, right? She hadn't gotten home yet. So that one works, right? Because you go, ooh, they started to come out, or they were ready to come out. The water was coming out because she was almost late. Like, they were getting ready to come out. That's freaky. But if you set that rule, then progress from there.
Yeah.
Like, have the little things that them pushing on the door, so to speak, you can do in a million different ways, right? Without them actually coming through the door. You can have her seeing things like that suggest the coming of the door opening. Mm-hmm. All sorts of little stuff, right? And on on top of that, I think a big mistake that they made is that the moment she sees her dad drown her mom is played out as, oh, I just remembered this. No, you should have spent the whole movie having flashes of that memory and either ignoring them for what they are. So you could, look, if I were doing that, building that sequence of reveal, I would take and this is kind of, I think, what they were trying to do, but it doesn't play out right. Every time you see the parents and they're dripping, you're just going, oh, this is just sort of cool visuals because they drowned. But if you're getting pieces of that memory from her, that's what we're actually seeing is pieces of the memory, but they are depicted inaccurately to the reality, that when we get the reality, we get her actually looking at the memory for real and seeing what it is, all of the things we've seen prior to that add up to it, and we go, fuck, this whole time she hasn't been seeing things, she's been remembering things. Mm-hmm. And that feels good. We go, ooh, shit. Now we know we got the answer. Mm-hmm. This does sort of a meandering other version of that doesn't kind of have a string connecting it. And look, some people don't want the string. I get it. That's not for everybody. For me, I really like that. I want it in storytelling. I want you to have aha moments that make you go, oh shit. All those things I was seeing before that I was sort of wondering about and had thoughts and ideas about what it could be added up to this, and that's not exactly what I thought. Or maybe I had a thought that it would be this, but like I got confirmation. That's super pleasing to me. Mm-hmm. This just took sort of like design visuals that are cool and showed them to us kind of without context. And that's why I say like, cool, it's cool, it looks cool, right. But it doesn't make me feel good.
Well, it was lacking the context of like how much of a threat is it at any given point.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. Nor was it just creepy in itself enough just to be, oh, it's mere presence.
I mean, shit, dude, here's an idea. You have that opening moment where the hatch water starts to come through the hatch, right? Let's see that fucking progress where it's like when... And Edward really reprimanded her for this, for being almost late. So when they actually break a rule, which Edward fucking does, he invites somebody in, which is fine, but have us then get consequence to that. The consequence isn't that Edward killed somebody, it's that the water should, like, the level of water in the house should rise to a much higher level and be a threat. Mm-hmm. Where it's like they live on the second floor and she should hear something and come out of her fucking bedroom and see that the water level is all the way to the banister. Mm-hmm. And you're like, fuck, that shit's coming. Well, we fucked up.
I can imagine maybe they wanted to, but it was a real historical place they were filming as their interior. So maybe they just didn't.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean,
no, it's just funny, you know.
They did enough visually where they could have made that happen without destroying a house.
No, you're right. It shouldn't be an excuse.
But, I mean, that's just an idea, right? Like, you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, that's an example of how you progress an initial idea into a bigger threat.
Yeah.
But showing an apparition of a person standing behind a fucking pillar and then having it disappear when you look back, it means nothing. It's actually just cheap. It doesn't speak to the story.
Yeah.
It's just like, scare. Oh. Fuck you. Like, I think those are fucking cheap as hell. Like, everybody thinks those are cheap.
Yeah. Even
people who like them think they're cheap.
But you can you can
could
do
it,
that. Yeah.
But you got to do it in a way that speaks to the point of the fucking story.
Yeah, have it be about that. Give it gravitas. Totally.
Yeah.
Not just, okay,
So-
here's that beat.
Right. Which
So
it very much was.
Yeah. Yeah. How much cooler if it was like, if they had to show them floating above the lake at the beginning, just to show it without showing it, like just show like a dripping wet dead foot that's just kind of like her direction floating, and we're like, what?
Dude, that was the first image, right? Like
Yeah.
the first that I was like, leave it there.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't. If you want to back out to the wide and show that, that's fine. Don't do it then. Mm-hmm. Do it way later in the movie. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, come on, dude. It's gothic horror, man. Like, tease it out.
Yeah. Otherwise, Otherwise, for all the reasons we said and the whatever other reasons, we're gonna be let down by the ending, like we were.
Right. Well,
Tim, I feel like that covers what did not work pretty well.
I feel like it does too.
All right. Well, with that, the
My
lodgers.
shoulder hurts.
And with that,
I was gesticulating a lot during that explanation of my dismay.
I'm sorry, you listening missed out on it. That was only for me. My enjoyment. Thank you for your gesticulation, Tim.
You can imagine.
All right. Yes, we could hear it. Okay, next section. Last section. Things of note.
Things of note!
This should be interesting.
I mean, I don't know if you're a Harry Potter fan, Tim, but seeing David Bradley, as we know as Filch from the Harry Potter movies, it was a trip seeing him pop up in this, looking exactly the same 20 years after the first Harry Potter movie.
Yeah, I like me some Filch.
Seeing him violently stabbed to death, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But hey, yeah, shout out to Filch. So did you look up at about this actual property at all? It was pretty cool.
Oh, no.
So it's called Loftus Hall. It is in Ireland. And it's just, there's like, if you go to the Wikipedia, there's just like, and even the main website, there's like such a storied history to it of like battles taking place there and just all this stuff. But now as far as the, some of the paranormal ghost stories surrounding it, I really wanted to share with you and tell you, as it's written on the website here, loftushall.ie/about. Tim, can I regale you the legend of Loftus Hall?
Please do.
All right, just a few paragraphs. Bear with me. Loftus Hall stands alone and austere on the bleak landscape. This backdrop adds to its eerie story. It is for many years said to have been visited by the devil, so many people from the surrounding area are nervous to enter the place after dark. Legend has it that during a storm at sea, a dark stranger approached the hall on horseback after his ship was driven into nearby Slade Harbor with rough seas. He was invited in to seek shelter and spent some days with the Tottenham family, who were living at the hall at the time. The young lady Anne Tottenham was especially taken with this dark stranger and fell head over heels for him. One night during a card game, she dropped a card, and upon bending down to retrieve it, she noticed that this dark stranger had cloven hooves instead of feet. As soon as he realized what she had seen, he shot through the roof in a ball of flames.
Whoa!
Pretty extreme. Anne never recovered. She went into a state of shock and madness, I guess understandably so, and her family locked her in the tapestry room for fear that anyone would see her. She died a couple of years later, still quite young, but her death was no release, as servants and family members reported seeing her wandering through the house at night. The family had the local Catholic priest exorcise the hall, but he could not exorcise the tapestry room. This story has been told through the years, and many have said there's something about certain areas of the hall, its atmosphere, the temperature, and the general feeling of unease. Since Loftus Hall was reopened to the public in 2012 for house tours, people claim to have felt and seen things in the hall that have left them wondering.
Wow.
You can also go to this website and watch live cams of the rooms at night.
Cool. You know what it sounds like to me?
What?
It sounds like some girl who lived there met a dude who was kind of hot, or she was just, it was opportunity, and they banged, and her dad had a flip out and, went Puritan insanity.
Oh, so it was the dad who turned into a ball of flames and shot through the roof.
No. No. Dad had a flip out because, daughters can't have sex. And they locked her in a room, and she went fucking crazy because she was fucking locked in a room and she killed herself. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yep.
And then some dickhead made up this story to make it, the devil's evil, and it's all a fucking allegory for don't have sex.
Yep.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Even if...
but I'll watch that movie.
Right. Even if she did see hooves and he burst into flames,
Yeah,
the real whore
she didn't
is
see
being...
hooves. She saw his dick. And she looked under the table because he was playing footsie with her, and he had taken his wiener out under the table, and she saw that, and she got very excited.
And either way, your take on the story...
And then they banged.
The whore
and then Dad came in and was like, "How dare you!"
Either way, the whore is a girl being locked in her room.
That's right. That's really the lesson here. Calm down and let your kids have at it when they're ready.
It's the moral of the story, folks.
Stop oppressing people's sexuality.
The Lodgers. I do like stories. I realize I just watched Pirates of the Caribbean 2.
Oh, yeah?
I just watched rewatched Pirates of the Caribbean 2. It was so nice. The whole motivation of Elizabeth Swann and Orlando Bloom, his name, they just want to have sex with each other. That's their motivation. Like the whole movie, it's like starting off their wedding night, and then it gets interrupted, and then the rest of the movie is just them trying to get back together. And I like for the tone of those movies, it's like perfect. And anyway, so I like that was because I think I was going with that mindset. That was kind of just like her story with wanting the boyfriend, and she kept trying to get in the mood with herself, and she was thinking about him, and then something would happen. Weird brother bursts into the room, ghost bursts into the room, whatever. Eel comes out of the bathtub. Just couldn't catch a break.
Really, I gotta say, this is my personal view on this. You can disagree. I don't fucking care. Here's what I think. It is one of the craziest things that humans came up with this notion of purity over the thing that we are biologically programmed to do. What the fuck?
I don't think they had words for biology.
Have some sex. Why is sex such a fucking big deal? Calm down, everyone.
I wish I could see you back in Puritan England being
Man, oh God, can you imagine me in Puritan England? I'd have so many feathers in my hat.
You'd have lost your voice from screaming at everyone by now if you were somehow still alive.
Oh, dude, oh my God, I would have been castrated so early.
Yeah, I still want you to see The Devils. Check out that movie. Ken Loach.
The Devils?
Yeah.
Have I seen that one?
No, I recommended it.
Oh.
I think you'll like it.
So many devils.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, yeah. So that was Loftus Hall and whatever else. I'm going to say one more thing. Sexual oppression, really, really all it is dads being uncomfortable with their daughters. That's what it is. That's all it comes down to. It's a bunch of dads who are like, I don't want to imagine my daughter having sex. And so then you get all this sexual oppression, this literature about it's the devil and whatever the fuck. It's, you're evil if you want to have sex. It's all because nobody says that shit about a dude who goes around raping people. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? As a cultural thing. we kind of brush off, it's just guys being guys. It's just a thing. You got to sow them wild oats or whatever, right? Like, that's a thing. Mm-hmm. Get a fucking life, everybody.
Things of note. Yeah, go to Bali and paint your painting, or Belize, right?
Yeah.
So Tim,
paint a big penis. Who gives a fuck?
Tim,
paint a penis going into a vagina. It doesn't matter.
As serious
sex
as
is great.
This is, Tim. There's some really some even more important news that came out of some research regarding this film.
Oh, whoa! Really?
More important than
bring us back down to reality.
Sexual
here,
oppression. Okay,
I'm ready for it.
Repression, oppression is more important than both. So, Charlotte Vega, who stars in this film as Rachel,
right?
She is going to be playing the character Jess Shaw in a new film slated to come out this month. Or this year. It's already been shot. It is the 7th film in one of your favorite series, Tim. It's called Wrong Turn: The Foundation.
Stop it.
Tim, it has been 6 years since the 6th Wrong Turn film came out in 2014. And I know every year that's gone by that they haven't announced a Wrong Turn film has been a little less bright of a world for you. But we'll get to see Charlotte Vega coming hopefully this year. It's been shot. Either way, we'll see it. In Wrong Turn: The Foundation.
Is it called Wrong Turn: The Foundation: Return of Doobie?
I hope so. It could be his origin story.
Holy shit. Wow. Well, put that one in the hat.
Yeah. Exactly.
My God. Well, that's cool. I like her.
Yeah, exactly. And Matthew Modine is in it too. Like, okay.
Oh, no.
Right, that does you bad.
Remember what Matthew Modine did to Mandy Moore?
No.
He sent Mandy Moore down with the sharks. Yeah.
And
it's all his fault.
Right. We have seen him in a movie before in this show. It's all connected, Tim.
God, is it ever?
Now we get to see them both together at last.
Finally.
In these two films. Okay, great. Well, if you have a recommendation, I'd love to hear it. Or do you want to hear mine?
Oh, I'd love to hear yours.
Tim, I'd never seen this film. I don't know if it's, maybe it's a classic if you're not as young as us. But I'd never seen Around the World in 80 Days. And I watched...
Oh, the OG? It's so good.
I watched that for the first time, Tim. It was just so fun. Like, those main characters. Of course, as you'd say, it's problematic, but...
That is an understatement.
And I was also able to have tons of fun with just the adventure yarn of it all. Like, and just the final kind of save at the end I did not see coming. It was perfect. I watched it as a Saturday matinee, and it was just perfect for that. Yeah. Around the World in 80 Days. Need no say more. I enjoyed it.
That's cool. I don't really know what mine is. You know what I've been doing, though? Maybe I'll post this. Okay, so... I obviously love the Marvel movies. And I, grew up reading Marvel comics. And when we got through however 20 some odd movies of Marvel movies, I made up a viewing order of all of the Marvel movies. And it was basically chronological. Like, it just was based on when the movie took place in history, not when it was released, within the universe. And so I decided, I was like, oh, I'm going to do that. I'll go through them while I have nothing better to do in quarantine. I'll just watch one a day or something like that for 3 weeks. And then I realized really quickly that my chronological order doesn't work. and I had to go back and like redo an order. So I'll put it on our Instagram.
Why doesn't it work? How did you arrive at it?
Because when you look at the whole thing, like if you sort of look at all of the movies as one big story, there's a appropriate structure to how that story unfolds and wraps up. I made that list initially before the final Endgame, Avengers Endgame, which sort of ends the whole story.
So there's threads kind of within this big overall story, and now you've ordered it just to kind of like tell these different little sub-threads. Is that by the gemstones?
Yeah, so this would be considered the Infinity Saga, right? It starts, I mean, in real time, it started with Iron Man, was the first Marvel movie of this saga, and technically it ends with the last Spider-Man, which was Far From Home. But that movie kind of serves more like a coda to the Infinity Saga. The saga ends with Avengers Endgame. And what I realized in making this new structure to it, or new order, it's pretty close actually to how they were released in real time. It's not exactly that, but it's similar. And I realized there are basically 4 6-movie sections.
Oh.
So 4 quarters. And each quarter can be played out by itself and actually pretty well works. And when you look at it from those 4 quarters, it has internally a really good, appropriate arc to it as well. Like the quarters make sense in regards to the whole.
And that
if they're done in that order.
And that supersedes but at the same time, it is still all a greater overall single story, which for me, it can be fun to see that play out in a chronological order.
It is. And there's like one caveat in the thing that I made in that like there's a post-credit scene, or it's like a mid-credit scene in Captain Marvel that where I put Captain Marvel in my order, that scene would make no sense. So I just have a caveat. It's like a little asterisk. It says like, don't watch the mid-credit scene in this movie.
But as far as like that, any greater satisfaction from watching a chronological thing, you still think it's nicer, or you get more satisfaction seeing these threads?
Yeah, this is way more satisfying to me, for sure. Because it's like, your first section is sort of establishing all of the main 4 characters. Mm-hmm. So those first 6 movies are Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, just the first Thor, and Captain America, the First Avenger, and then that all culminates with the first Avengers movie. So those 6 movies, you could play that out, and that you could walk away from that and be like, cool. And then the second section, a similar thing happens. It's all very sort of Avengers-oriented. It's sort of the next phase. And then the third section is actually almost entirely origin movies of new characters. And then the fourth section plays out everything really leading up to the final movie.
Is it chronological within those chunks?
Pretty much.
Okay.
It jumps a little bit. Like, for example, Captain America, the First Avenger, takes place in 1943 and through 45. But then the final scene in that movie is Captain America being pulled out of the ice in modern time, which leads directly into the Avengers. Similarly, in the third quarter of these things, I put Captain Marvel in that third quarter because it's an origin story, and you also have Ant-Man origin story, you also have Doctor Strange origin story, you have Black Panther origin story, so you have and Spider-Man. So you have these other sort of intro to all these new characters that play a part in the last quarter.
Cool. Well, I'm kind of hitting my Marvel limit here.
You don't want to talk about it more?
Well, here's the thing.
Because I could go on.
I know, and I look forward to seeing it on our Instagram. Please be thorough.
So my recommendation is my viewing order.
Cool.
Of the Marvel movies.
I actually
which I will post somewhere.
I am genuinely interested in it because I think coming from the horror place though of like being fascinated by franchises and like wanting to put together the connectivity and like the choices that were made, whether it's all over the place, Friday the 13th, whatever, they're all over the place. It's just fun to look at it as a whole. And that's the side that I'm approaching it from, where I'm interested in it. It's interesting. Cool. Oh, and I think
Thanks for indulging me.
I look forward to seeing it.